With the block pulled, cleaned up, and painted, it was time to begin assembly as well as the installation of the new intake manifold. The first order of business in reassembly will be reinstalling both heads, plural. During reinstallation, we'll obviously be using new head gaskets, but I also ordered new head bolts just to be on the safe side. In this shot, I'm using a regular ratchet to install the heads, but don't worry, we're going to torque them in a future step. At the time of filming this part, I only had a regular ratchet. Using the service manual for a 99 Suburban, we'll look for the torque sequence for these heads and torque them in the proper order. Using the proper torque sequence and torque specifications is important because it will ensure that the head is seated as flat as possible, which will prevent any future coolant or oil leaks. With both heads properly reinstalled, we will go ahead and remove any surface rust that may have formed on the intake manifold mating surfaces. We'll also remove this oil pressure sender so that it is less likely to interfere with the intake manifold installation. Throughout this rebuild process, I will be spraying the engine with WD-40 to deter moisture, since I am working on this engine in a somewhat humid environment. It will also help force any contaminants to drain out into the oil pan as I spray it. And obviously this oil pan will be drained and cleaned before the engine is filled with motor oil. With the mating surfaces cleaned, we will now install the intake manifold gaskets and apply a bead of RTV sealant between the two heads on the valley surfaces. I also applied a bead to the intake manifold itself, and I don't recall exactly why, probably to ensure that no gap is allowed, which would allow oil to seep out over time. I'm not sure how kosher this is, but I guess we'll find out when we start the engine. With the RTV in place, we can go ahead and install our special 4-barrel carburetor intake manifold for Vortec heads, which is held on with 8 bolts near the outer edges. Using the specification in the shop manual, we'll go ahead and torque those to spec in the proper sequence. With the heads and intake manifold installed, we can now go ahead and install the push rods. To keep them from rusting, I put them in this Harbor Freight jumper cable bag, but they were never cleaned when I pulled them out of the engine, so we're just going to use a little bit of WD-40 to wipe the surfaces clean and then install them. These push rods also have a hollow center to allow oil to come up into the head, so off camera I blew through each one to make sure that there was no obstruction preventing oil from reaching the valves. We'll do this for all 16 push rods on the engine and place them into their respective holes. Once each push rod is cleaned and put back into the engine, we can go ahead and retighten the valves over each of the push rods. This will again be done 16 times, 2 valves per cylinder. Next, we will install this oil filter adapter on the engine block. The 1999 Suburban that this engine came out of was equipped with a oil cooler, presumably for towing with highway gears, so this adapter will delete the need for oil cooler lines, which means a simpler setup overall. The reason I say highway gears and towing is because I removed the same exact engine block from a 2500 Express around the same time, and that van did not have a oil cooler setup. With the valves and an oil filter installed, we can go ahead and start adding oil to the engine and adding oil over all of the valves to ensure that not only will rust be prevented, but also allow for the oil pump to be primed using a homemade oil priming tool. The camshaft is actually what drives the oil pump on a small block Chevy through the distributor shaft. So removing that cam gear from the distributor shaft allows it to be spun freely with a drill or other rotary tool. This in turn rotates the oil pump independent of the engine and allows it to be primed before engine operation. This is especially important if the engine has been sitting for several years or was newly rebuilt. In this case, the engine had both been sitting for a while, but it had also been partially rebuilt, with parts that are normally lubricated having been cleaned. And I think that will about wrap it up for this video. Due to the limited tool resources down at the farm in La Plata, the next series of engine modifications will take place at my house, where I keep a lot of my more expensive tools safe. There also seems to be a number of distractions that prevent us from actually getting any work done, so at home I can work on the engine at my own pace, because as of now this channel does not provide any income, and I simply do this as a side hobby. So for those of you that have watched this far, I thank you greatly. I really appreciate it. Each of these videos takes several hours to edit properly, in addition to actually working on the projects here and filming them and organizing all the files. And the hardware I am editing on is almost 10 years old at this point, so that's part of why videos take about 2 to 3 weeks on average to come out. Hopefully this will change sometime next year when I look at new computer hardware. If you aren't subscribed yet, be sure to do so, because this video is part of a larger series and I'm really trying to document every part of the process, even if I do summarize a lot of it. Anyways, catch you next time.